All right, guys, so today I'm going to teach you how to make apple roses, or rose apples, however you want to call it. I've already preheated my oven to 400. I have my cupcake tins, which I'm going to spray with any kind of oil. I'm using olive. You have your puff pastry, which I have thawed out and rolled. If you don't have a rolling pin, it's fine. I actually used a cup just to kind of show you that you can do it without a rolling pin. You do not have to spend extra money. So as long as you have some kind of plastic cup of some sort, you can use it to roll out anything. You're gonna take a pizza cutter. If you don't have one, you can use a knife. So I'm gonna cut this right along here. These lines kind of help you figure out where you need to go. So we're gonna do this. This one might be a little bit bigger, so we'll probably have to change that up later. Maybe cut it a little bit more. All right, so we've got this. You can use flour if you want so that it doesn't really stick, but you don't have to. So if you get like excess flour on here, you can just wipe it off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of paint it with some butter. I'm gonna use a spoon. I don't necessarily like using brushes all the time because then sometimes the bristles fall out and you don't really want those in your food, but you can use one if you want to. I have. I'm gonna paint this with this butter. You're gonna sprinkle this with some of your cinnamon sugar that I have already made. You can eyeball it or measure it if you want, but you just want a bowl or a cup on the side with some cinnamon sugar. You're gonna put that right on here. And then you can kind of like figure out how sweet you want it, but I'm just gonna coat the whole thing. Then you're gonna take your apples. So I've already pre-sliced them with a mandolin. They are pretty thin. You're gonna place them right here like this, and you're going to overlap each one. I'm gonna get a smaller one. So this right here is gonna be just a little bit too long. So I'm gonna cut it, and then you can discard that part. Or you can bake it on its own if you want. So you're gonna push these down. And then you're gonna roll. So this is gonna be your finished product before you put it into the oven. I'm gonna put a little bit of butter kind of on the inside right here so that the puff pastry sticks together. It makes it a little bit easier when you're putting it into these cupcake tins. So we're gonna spray these first. Stick these right in here. It's so pretty. So I can actually make like a smaller one out of this. So I'm gonna make two out of this one because this one's extra long. So again, you're gonna put your butter down. And then what I normally do is I'll put some butter down here and then I'll just kind of use my finger to move the butter around. And this is kind of like just showing you what you can use at home to make these. I've made these a few times. If you have extra butter, that's fine. The butter kind of also helps to kind of make the flour that's stuck on there just a little bit moist so that cinnamon sugar, so it's not like overly floury. So in this cinnamon sugar, I did put a little bit of, you can put extra seasoning in it. If you actually stick a little bit of salt in there, anything with salt actually brings out the flavor or the sweetness a little bit better. I actually put a little bit of nutmeg in with the cinnamon sugar on mine, which that's not what the original recipe calls for, but you can actually add whatever seasonings you want in here. I've actually thought about adding some like almond extract or orange, but the apples have actually been sitting in lemon juice. So you're gonna roll this. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of this extra butter that's down here and I'm gonna put it on here so that it stays. And then there's number 2. Now these don't have to be absolutely perfect. You are making them from scratch. You are making your little masterpiece, if you will. So they're not gonna be perfect. But these apples have been sitting in some water and lemon juice. And just to make the apples a little bit more pliable, so that they do roll and they don't break, you can actually put them either in some water and microwave them for a few seconds to get them a little warm so that it does make it easier to maneuver. Or you can, if you don't have a microwave or you don't want to use your microwave, you can do it on the stovetop in a little bit of warm water as well. So we're just going to use the butter that came out that's down here to close this up. And then we've got one more, because this is going to be too long, but not long enough for 2. Just going to put a little bit on here, spread it around. I love making these because when they come out of the oven, it's like, oh my god, they're so pretty. All right, so we got that. We're gonna put our cinnamon sugar, and in this case, nutmeg mixture. And remember, you wanna leave a little bit of cinnamon sugar mixture for the end, because before you pop them in the oven, you are gonna put an egg wash on top, and you're gonna put some more cinnamon sugar on top of that. So this one's gonna be like a half a one. You're gonna push it down. And the end of this is gonna get a little bit of butter. To make sure it sticks. This is gonna go in here. I'm actually going to move the two that are on the outside to the inside. So that they cook evenly. I have made a mess. All right. So once you have that done, I'm going to move you over so that you can see. So we have our roses, as you can see. And that's what they look like before they go in the oven. So on this, I am gonna use a little brush. I use these because they're disposable. So this is just gonna get a little bit of an egg wash in here. You just kind of want the pastry to get it. So you're gonna do each one. And then after this, you will actually sprinkle some more cinnamon sugar on top. But this is actually going to make the puff pastry kind of golden brown. And you don't want a lot. You just want enough to like paint the outside. So you're gonna take your cinnamon sugar and you're just gonna put a little bit on top, and then it is going to like bake into this. And you can use a spoon if you don't want to get your hands covered, because I now have cinnamon sugar under my nails, which I do use gloves a lot. I just haven't used them lately. So I sprayed all of these, but depending on what oil you use, it can burn in the oven. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe these other ones out real quick. I do this a lot if I make cupcakes that don't have liners on them. I will wipe out the ones that I sprayed if I, let's say, make the cupcakes a little bigger and I don't use all of these. So this is gonna go in the oven at 400 for about 30 to 45 minutes. But you're gonna wanna keep an eye on them just to make sure. All right guys, so we're gonna go ahead and make the homemade whipped cream while we wait for our apple roses to come out of the oven. So what we're gonna do, I have a cup of heavy whipping cream right here. You're just gonna put that in here. I have my whisk attachment because that is what you need. If you don't have one of these mixers, you can actually use a regular whisk or a spoon or something to whisk this together. It is gonna take a little while, just because it does need, the whole point of whipped cream is to get as much air in it as you can. And that's what makes it all whipped and delicious. So we're gonna put this in here, trying to get all of it out. So we got all that in there. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I grabbed a third of a cup to put the confectioner sugar in. You can eyeball it. It just depends on how sweet you want it. To be honest, if I'm not baking it, then I'm eyeballing. So I would just put as much in as you think it needs. Don't put in exactly a third of a cup if you don't want it that sweet. plug this in. Forgot that it was unplugged. All right, so you're gonna lock your KitchenAid and you're gonna start it. You're gonna wanna put it on a decently high mixing power. I have mine on like a 4, but like I said, if you don't have one of these mixers, you can do it by hand. And I can actually do another video to show you how to do it by hand if you want to. So we're basically just waiting for this to mix up. And it does take a minute, but you'll be able to see it once it starts forming those like stiff peaks in there. I am going to cut this off though because there's sugar stuck to the side. I'm going to go up one more. And you can actually see it start to get thicker. And the sugar is actually going to help thicken it up as well. So it's starting to get there. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to taste it. You always want to taste, just to make sure. A little bit more sugar. See, that's what I mean by tasting. If you don't taste what you're making and then you go ahead and serve it, you're not gonna know if there's enough sugar in it. You're not gonna know if there's enough salt or pepper or whatever it is you're cooking. So you always have to taste test your food before you're done. And that's the thing to remember, is that you can add to, but you can't take out. So if you put too much, then you have to start all over again. See it getting thicker. So just another second. We're gonna turn it off. We're gonna lift this up. So we have a peak down there. So this is what it looks like. Perfect. So that little bit of extra sugar at the end definitely helps. This is the consistency of what it's going to be like. I do want it a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go back, put this in here. And that should be good. We're going to take this off. Get all this out of here. Remember when I was a kid, my mom would make cookies, or my grandmother, and I would just like eat the cookie mix off of the mixer, like the spoons. I still do that, I'm not gonna lie. All right, so this is the consistency of what you want. This is what you want it to look like. It's gonna be so good on top of these apples. All right, so we're gonna leave that there. We'll be back as soon as those are done. All right, so what we've done, we've taken them out of the oven. We've put them on this tray to cool. You're going to want to kind of use a knife around them as you're cutting them out, just in case any parts of it have gotten stuck to your pan. You can also use like the little ramekins that you can put in the oven. You can use those as well. So you're gonna want to put them on something and then kind of cover them with a little bit of confectioner sugar. I like to put it on right when it comes out so that the sugar can kind of start to melt onto your dessert. So this is what the finishing or the finished item looks like. I'm gonna put it on my plate and take some of our whipping cream that we made. I like a lot of whipped cream, I'm not gonna lie. And just kind of put it onto the side. And you can also have this with some ice cream if you want. You can choose whatever ice cream you want. So I have a little bit of cinnamon sugar. I'm actually going to dust my whipped cream with it. And that is dessert.